Please welcome to the stage, Glace Chase!
Woo! Here we go. Hi, everybody. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. So, I was looking into his eyes, his beady, mean eyes flickering. And I just knew. I knew this man could kill me. This wasn't a game. This wasn't the movies. This was real life. This man could fucking kill me. And what the hell am I gonna do now? So 9 months earlier, and I just landed in London. See, I'm actually Australian, but I don't talk about it. And yeah, I have issues. And so you would know I'm Australian, would you? And so I was 19. I was doing my gap year, and I'd always had this fantasy about becoming, an international person of mystery, and London was the first step on my journey to becoming that. And I'd grown up really rough in Australia, like very working class. My father ran a tire business, so I grew up playing in tires. I was meant to take over the family business. It wasn't going to work out. And of course, this was not a time of loving your gender variant children, not at all. It was, a lot of shame, a lot of bullying. And also, too, when I was 19, I always looked very young for my age. So I actually looked 15, but I'd had a really, really rough time, so I felt like I was 25. And it meant that when I arrived in London, I had a lot to prove to the world and a lot to prove to myself, that I had what it took, that I could be someone, that I could achieve something. And so I said to my new best friend, Sharina, with all that wisdom of youth, I said, well, I'm gonna have sex anyway, so why not get paid for it? And of course, she nodded sagely. She was also 19. And that's how I became a London rent boy. Thank you. Yes. Now, in that time, this was the early 2000s, the internet wasn't what the internet was now. Instead, we had these things called gay rags, right? And at the back of every gay rag would just be all the classifieds and all the escort ads. Even though it was illegal, it didn't matter. Little clipping after little clipping. Tony, buff Tony, 26, total top, call me. And so I was like, okay, well, this is what I gotta do. I gotta take out an ad. So I did my research, and so I needed a name. So I decided on Tim. It seems, perfectly passive, and I was gonna sell on my youth. I had to decide my rates. I decided with 70 pounds for an hour. That seemed like a good amount. And you'd call up the newspaper, and then you'd, pay with your card, and the next week, the ad would come out. And I started getting calls pretty much straight away. But before I did that, I went to a bank. I went to the Lloyd's Bank, and I set up a bank account because I was working as a secretary during the day, and I decided that I was gonna save all my whore money because I knew I was destined to become a famous movie star, absolutely destined. So when I arrived in LA, I was gonna need a real nest egg to get myself started, right? So the calls started coming in. Now, the first job, easy. I can barely remember it. I remember he was slightly plain. The place was slightly nice. It was overdone. Got a 10-pound tip at the door. I was like, yes, this is so fucking easy. The next gig, this was more interesting. He was very fucking attractive. He would have been late 30s. He was advertising kind of money and tall, dark, handsome. And I was just like, oh, I could just fall in love with you. And then he's rubbing his cock against my asshole. And I can feel him trying to push it in. And I'm like, oh no, but I'm a safety girl. No, you shouldn't. And he's like, please let me. And I was like, well, maybe we're gonna fall in love and he's gonna save me from this, hell that is prostitution. So I let him stick it in me, and then we were done, and then I got my money and he asked me to leave. And I learned a valuable lesson. This is business, not love. I decided to up my game, so I joined an agency, an escort agency. Now they would pay. They charged $150, but you would keep 100. So already it was 30 quid more than I was making currently. But they insisted you have to have a photo. You have to have photos. So we put the photos on the internet, and well, I goddamn broke that site. Thank you. I was very popular and they loved me. I was going to make them a lot of money, and I did. And some great stories from that one was they were like, you need to go to, like 2 hours out of London. He's been with a couple of our boys. He likes to be humiliated. He'll pick you up. So he picked me up in his car, and I had these short leather gloves on, and we're driving around a lane. And I was just like, pull over here. Now, show me your cock. And so he pulls out this tiny little penis. And I said, you're really pathetic, aren't you? And he said, yes. I said, you want me to touch it, don't you? He's like, yes. I'm like, oh, God, I suppose I'm going to touch it. And so I was jerking him off. I was like, you like that, don't you? He's like, yes, I really do, I really do. And so I pulled my hand away. And he said, why did you stop? And I said, because you didn't want me to. And with that, he just came everywhere. Fucking fabulous. Then there was, you're gonna love this one, there was another one. He was like very far outside of London too. And he was this old guy, beautiful house. And I was like, oh, but you're skeezy and unattractive. I do not want to do this, I don't. So I made him wear a condom. I was gonna go down on him, but I made him wear a condom. And like I was going down on him, and I don't, like the spermicide on the condoms makes your tongue go numb, and you're just like, oh God, why am I doing this? And he clearly felt the same. He's like, this is not going to get me off either. Let me just look at your asshole. So I was on all fours, and he was staring at my asshole. And I was like, okay, you just have to go to your happy place. Go somewhere else. And I was like, maybe I am actually straight. Because of like, Britney Spears is really hot in that Stronger video. And so he's like staring at my asshole, jerking off, and I'm like, 'cause I'm stronger, yes, you do. My happy place, And then he finished, and we went downstairs, and I was like, fuck, nice place. And then I saw this mantle, and it had all these awards and shit. And there was one, this woman holding this kind of globe that was golden. And then there was this man, he had his arms folded. What the fuck? Is that an Oscar? I picked it up. It was so fucking heavy. It was a real fucking Oscar. This man had won an Oscar for... I can't tell you. I mean, I remember, but I cannot tell you because, he might still be alive. He probably isn't, but still. He won an Oscar for something that was not acting, directing in the 80s. And you will know the film. You know the film. And as I was holding this Oscar, I was like, God, I am going to win one of these one day. Maybe for, like, Best Actor or at the very least Best Supporting Actor. God damn it. Maybe one day I'll even play James Bond. Youth. And all the while, I'm depositing this money. And then there's this one guy, again, he lived on the outskirts of London. He was like 6'3", big guy. We went upstairs. He's in this little kind of, 2-story house in a quiet kind of neighborhood. We went up the stairs, got undressed, very, very kind of casual, And, I kind of liked it a little bit rough. And, I was almost barely present. And then punches me right in the face. What the fuck? And then he did it again. He's like, you like that, don't you? And I watched his eyes change. They just started to flip. They got really hard, and he got what I call dead eyes, just that there was not a man there anymore. There was just this thing. And I knew that I was in real serious shit. And I said, no, I don't like it. What are you doing? And with that, he pinned my arms down, and he said, I'm going to fucking tie you up. And I said, no, please don't. I don't want to be tied up. And he said, yes, you do. I'm going to fucking tie you up. I'm going to tie your hands behind your back. I'm going to hog tie you. And then I'm going to grab you, and I'm going to throw you in the back, in the boot of the car, and then I'm going to drive fucking around. I'm not going to pay you. I'm going to drive you around London all night. I'm going to stop in sex shops. I'm going to buy a fist dildo. I'm going to use it on you while you scream. And then I'm going to gag tie you and throw you back in the car and keep driving and drive around all night. Maybe you'll suffocate. I went through the Rolodex in my mind of what I could do. He was very big, and I thought, okay, maybe you could make a run for it, just run down the stairs, but maybe the door was locked. It was a bit of a rabbit warren of a house, and if he got a hold of me, then I've just escalated that situation because I'd done nothing at that point. If I made him angry, well, then who knows what the fuck he would have done then. And then this voice came inside of me, this presence. And I knew exactly what I needed to do. And so I looked at him and I said, harder. And he smiled and he punched me again. And I said, harder. He said, yeah, you fucking deserve that, don't you? I said, yes, I do. I do, fucking harder. The reason I did that is not because I'm self-loathing or masochistic, though I've done that and been that plenty of times. That was not this instance. In this instance, I knew the best way to make this be over, the best way to make it stop, was to escalate it my way. Make him come. Just make him motherfucking come. Harder, hit me. Yes, I deserve it. You're a fucking faggot, aren't you, you sissy? You stupid sissy bitch. And he flipped me over, and he's punching at my back, and I'm screaming out, and I'm shaking. But again, there's this sort of part above me, because though I was terrified, I was sort of doing it for him, too, because I knew that's what it would take to get him off. And as I was encouraging him to hit me and punch me and stick his fingers inside me, eventually, he did come. And I'll never forget that moment. Just this little on my back, just a tiny dribble of cum. And I thought, how mediocre. And I cleaned myself up and sort of got dressed, and his eyes were back to normal, and he kind of was a little sheepish, but not really, and gave me the money and said thank you. And it's like, okay. So I walked out the door, and yes, the streets were empty, and there was no one around, and no one would have heard me, even if I had made a run for it. And I sat on that train platform, and I texted Sharina and said I'd had a really rough night. She said, come over, have some G&Ts. And I was on that train, and people were coming and going, and I remember looking at this woman, and she was just going about her business, and my body was starting to bruise, and I was feeling really sore and really shaky. And she sort of looked at me, and then she looked away, and I realized that nobody knew, nobody cared what had happened to me, what was going to happen. I was alone. And I left London not too long after that. I stopped doing that work. And I pursued becoming an international creature of the world. Right now in London, there is a Lloyd's Bank, and there would be a department, a lost and unclaimed accounts department, and there must be a file. And that file will have a name that I have not used for many, many years. And that name is Richard Weed. And in that file is a figure, and that figure is 3,500 pounds. And London may have forgotten The world may have forgotten, but I have not forgotten who that person was and what that money represents. I can take care of my fucking self. Thank you.